Captain John Miller stood at the viewport of the mining vessel MSV Northern Star, staring at the vast asteroid belt that filled the screen. Small bits of rock and ice drifted in the blackness of space, but it was the larger chunks that interested him. Those were the ones that might hold the minerals Earth so desperately needed. Beautiful, isn't it? Dr. Lisa Grant moved to stand beside him. Her eyes reflected the distant starlight as she gazed at the asteroid field. John nodded. Beautiful and hopefully profitable. Earth resources wouldn't send us all this way for nothing. The year was 2187, and Earth had long ago used up most of its natural resources. Mining expeditions like this one were humanity's lifeline. The mission was simple: survey the unexplored asteroid belt in the Epsilon Eridani system and bring back as many valuable minerals as possible. "Captain, we're approaching optimal scanning range," Sam Wright called from the pilot's seat. His hands moved steadily across the controls, guiding the ship with practiced ease. Sam could fly through anything, or so he claimed. John tapped his comm badge. "Eric, is the scanning equipment ready?" A young voice replied immediately. "Yes, sir. All systems are calibrated and running at peak efficiency." Eric Sanders was fresh out of the academy, on his first deep space mission. His eagerness made John smile. "Good. Begin the preliminary sweep as soon as we're in range." Behind him, Olivia Martinez checked her sidearm for the third time since their shift began. As security chief, she always prepared for trouble, even on a routine mining mission. "Expecting a fight with some rocks, Chief?" John asked with a slight grin. Olivia didn't return the smile. 15 years in the service taught me one thing, Captain. There's no such thing as a routine mission." John couldn't argue with that. After 15 years leading mining expeditions, he knew surprises were the only constant in space. A ship's computers hummed as the scanning began. Eric's voice came over the comm again, excitement evident. "Captain, you need to see this. The readings from the largest asteroid in the cluster. They're unlike anything in our database." John and Lisa exchanged looks before heading to the science station. The view screen showed a detailed scan of a massive asteroid. Strange energy signatures pulsed at its core. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" John asked. Lisa's fingers flew across the controls, bringing up more detailed scans. "I'm not entirely sure. The mineral composition is standard for this sector. But there's something else, some kind of energy signature embedded deep within the rock." She looked up, her eyes wide. "This doesn't match any known natural formation." Eric pointed to a section of the scan. "The density readings are all wrong too. It's as if parts of it are hollow." John frowned. "Natural caves can form in asteroids." "Not like this," Lisa said firmly. "These are too regular, too designed." Olivia moved closer to the screen. "Are you suggesting artificial structures out here?" "I'm not suggesting anything yet," Lisa replied. "But we need a closer look." John considered their options. The mission parameters were clear: identify and extract valuable minerals. There was nothing about investigating strange energy readings or possible artificial structures, but his curiosity was piqued. "Sam, bring us in closer to the large asteroid. Lisa, prepare a probe. Let's get more detailed scans before we make any decisions." As Sam guided the ship toward the massive rock, John felt a familiar tension in his shoulders. What had seemed like a simple mining mission was quickly becoming something else entirely. "Energy signature is getting stronger," Eric reported, his voice slightly higher than normal. "And sir, it just changed its pattern. Almost like it's responding to our approach." John watched as the readouts shifted on the screen. After 15 years in space, he'd learned to trust his gut. And right now, his gut was telling him that whatever they'd found in this forgotten corner of space was going to change everything. The northern star moved steadily toward the asteroid, its powerful lights illuminating the ancient surface. None of the crew could have guessed that this routine mission would soon become a desperate struggle for survival, not just for them, but possibly for humanity itself. The small exploration team stepped onto the surface of the asteroid. Their magnetic boots kept them from floating away into the emptiness of space. Captain John Miller led the way, with Dr. Lisa Grant close behind. Eric Sanders followed, carrying scanning equipment. Olivia Martinez brought up the rear, her hand never far from her weapon. "Stay alert," John said through the comm system in their suits. "We're here to investigate the strange readings, nothing more." The surface of the asteroid was like many others they had seen before, gray, dusty, and covered with small craters. But the readings on their devices told a different story. Something unusual waited beneath their feet. "The energy signature is strongest over there." Lisa pointed toward a large crater about 50 meters away. The team moved carefully across the uneven surface. As they reached the edge of the crater, Eric gasped, "Captain, look." At the bottom of the crater was something that shouldn't have been there. A perfectly smooth metal surface reflecting the stars above. "That's not natural," Olivia stated the obvious, her hand now resting on her weapon. John nodded. "Lisa, what are we looking at?" Lisa checked her scanner. "It appears to be some kind of artificial structure. The metal doesn't match any alloy in our database." She looked up at John. "Someone built this." The team made their way down the slope of the crater. The metal surface was larger than it had first appeared, covering most of the crater floor. Eric ran his gloved hand over it. "No dust," he said. "It's like it's being maintained somehow." Olivia knelt down and examined the edge where the metal met the asteroid rock. "There's a seam here. I think this might be an entrance." Lisa's scanner beeped loudly. The energy readings just spiked. "Something is happening." As if responding to her words, a line of light appeared on the metal surface. The line widened, forming a rectangular shape. With a soft hiss, a section of the metal slid open, revealing a dark passage leading down into the asteroid. "Did we trigger that?" Eric asked, his voice unsteady. "Maybe," John replied. "Or maybe something inside knew we were here." Olivia positioned herself in front of the opening, weapon now drawn. "Captain, we should return to the ship and report this. We're not equipped for first contact scenarios." John considered her words. The mission protocols were clear. Any sign of alien technology was to be reported immediately. But curiosity pulled at him. "We're already here," he said finally. "A quick look won't hurt. Olivia, you stay at the entrance. Lisa, Eric with me. We go in 10 meters, take some readings, and come right back out." The passage was smooth and clearly artificial. Soft blue lights activated along the walls as they moved forward, responding to their presence. The air was breathable according to their suits' sensors, another impossibility on an airless asteroid. "This place must have been here for a very long time," Lisa whispered, though there was no need to be quiet in their sealed suits. "But it still has power, atmosphere." They reached a junction where the passage split in 3 directions. The walls were covered with strange symbols that seemed to shift slightly when looked at directly. "I've never seen writing like this," Lisa said, scanning the walls. "It's not in any Earth database." Eric moved toward a panel on the wall. It glowed softly with the same blue light as the passageway. "This looks like some kind of control interface." "Don't touch anything," John warned, but it was too late. Eric's gloved finger had already pressed what appeared to be a button. The blue lights suddenly changed to red. A low hum filled the passage, growing louder by the second. "What did you do?" Lisa asked, backing away from the panel. "I don't know. I just..." Olivia's voice cut through their comms. "Captain, something's happening out here. The entire structure is lighting up. And there's something on the long-range scanner. Multiple objects heading this way. Fast." John grabbed Eric's arm. "We're leaving. Now." As they rushed back toward the entrance, none of them noticed the small crystal in the wall panel begin to pulse with light, sending a signal deep into space, a beacon that had just awakened after centuries of silence. The crew of the Northern Star gathered in the ship's command center. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. On the main screen, they watched as the asteroid's surface changed. More lights appeared, forming patterns across the rocky landscape. "What exactly did you touch down there?" John asked, looking at Eric. The young engineer shook his head. "It looked like a simple control panel. I thought it might give us more information about the structure." "Well, it certainly woke something up," Sam said from his pilot station. "Those objects heading our way have changed course. They're definitely coming straight for us now." Olivia stood by the weapons console, though the mining vessel had only basic defensive capabilities. "How long until they reach us?" "At their current speed, about 6 hours," Sam replied. Lisa was still studying the data from their brief exploration. "Captain, I think we should go back down there." Everyone turned to look at her. "Hear me out," she continued. "Whatever Eric activated, it's changing the asteroid. More systems are coming online. If we don't understand what's happening, we'll be flying blind when those ships arrive." John considered her words. Going back seemed risky, but staying ignorant might be worse. "All right," he decided. "Lisa, Eric, you're with me again. Olivia too. Sam, keep the engines hot. If things go bad, be ready to pull us out fast." Back on the asteroid, the changes were even more dramatic. The entrance to the underground structure had widened, and more blue lights lined the path. The team moved cautiously through the passage they had explored earlier. "The energy readings are much stronger now," Lisa said, checking her scanner. "Coming from deeper inside." They followed the central passage until it opened into a large circular chamber. The walls were covered with the same shifting symbols, but what drew their attention was in the center of the room. 7 tall, cylindrical pods stood in a circle. Each pod was made of a clear material that looked like glass, but was surely something stronger. And inside 6 of the pods were figures. "Are those people?" Eric whispered, moving closer to one of the pods. "Not people," Lisa replied, scanning the nearest pod. "Humanoid, yes, but definitely not human." The figures were tall and slender with pale blue skin. Their eyes were closed, and they appeared to be sleeping or in some kind of stasis. "The 7th pod is empty," Olivia noted, her weapon ready. The soft sound behind them made them all turn. Standing in the entrance to the chamber was another of the blue-skinned beings. Unlike those in the pods, this one was awake and watching them with large, silver eyes. "Hello," John said, stepping forward with his hands raised to show he was unarmed. "We mean no harm." The being tilted its head, studying them. Then it spoke, the words sounding like flowing water. None of the humans understood. Lisa stepped forward slowly. She pointed to herself. "Lisa." Then she gestured to the alien. "You." The alien seemed to understand. It touched its chest. "Vex." For the next 20 minutes, they attempted basic communication. Lisa drew mathematical symbols on her tablet, and Vex quickly showed understanding of these universal concepts. Through simple drawings and numbers, they learned that Vex and the others in the pods were called Iridians. They had been in stasis for a very long time, hiding from something. Vex drew a picture of predatory-looking ships, then pointed upward. The meaning was clear. Whatever was coming toward them was dangerous. "The beacon," Eric said suddenly. "When I activated that panel, it must have sent a signal." Vex nodded vigorously, obviously understanding more of their language than they had realized. The alien then touched a control on the wall, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed their solar system, with multiple objects approaching rapidly. "Harvesters," Vex said, the first English word they had spoken. The alien's silver eyes held a look that needed no translation. Fear. Whatever these harvesters were, they terrified even these advanced aliens enough to hide in stasis for what must have been centuries. And now, thanks to the Northern Star crew, they were coming. Back on the Northern Star, the crew gathered around Vex in the meeting room. The alien looked strange sitting in a human chair, too tall and thin, with those silver eyes that never seemed to blink. "How much time do we have?" John asked Sam. The pilot checked his tablet. The first harvester ships will reach us in about 4 hours. The main fleet is 6 hours behind them. Vex had been learning English quickly, picking up words and phrases with amazing speed. Harvesters bad. The alien said. They take minds. Take energy. Consume all. Consume minds. Olivia asked, her hand instinctively moving to her weapon. What does that mean? Using a mix of simple English and drawings, Vex explained that the harvesters were predators who fed on the neural energy of intelligent beings. They didn't just kill. They extracted and consumed the very essence of consciousness from their victims. Eric looked sick, and we led them straight here. Not your fault, Vex said. Beacon old. You not know. John stood up and paced the room. We need to contact Earth Command. This is far beyond our mission parameters. I've been trying, Sam said. Something's blocking our long-range communications. Started about an hour ago. Lisa looked at Vex. Are the harvesters doing that? Vex nodded. First step. Always. Cut off prey. The reality of their situation began to sink in. They were alone, far from Earth, with hostile ships approaching, and no way to call for help. What about the others in the pods? John asked. Your people? Should we wake them? Yes, Vex replied. Need all to fight. Or escape. Olivia stood up. Fight. With what? We're a mining vessel, not a warship. Mining tools, Eric said suddenly. The laser drills, the explosive charges we use for breaking up asteroids. We could repurpose them. John nodded. Good thinking. Olivia, work with Eric to see what kind of defenses we can cobble together. Sam, plot us an escape route, just in case. He turned to Lisa and Vex. You two wake the other Iridians. We need all the help we can get. As the crew rushed to prepare, John went to his cabin. He needed a moment alone to think. The simple mining mission had become something he never could have imagined. Now he was responsible not just for his crew, but for an alien species on the brink of extinction. His thoughts were interrupted by Lisa's voice over the comm. Captain, you need to come see this. In the science lab, Lisa and Vex had connected the ship's computers to Vex's technology. On the screen was a star map showing hundreds of worlds. What am I looking at? John asked. Harvester hunting grounds, Vex explained. Worlds they found. Consumed. Lisa pointed to a familiar section of the map. That's our region of space, Captain. Earth is here. She touched a point on the screen. According to Vex's data, the harvesters have known about us for years. They've been watching. Waiting, Vex added. Wait for humans to lead to us. Two prey better than one. The realization hit John like a physical blow. Earth had no idea what was coming. If the harvesters beat them, they wouldn't just destroy the Northern Star. They might follow its path straight back to Earth. We cannot run, John said slowly. If we try to head home, we'll lead them right to Earth. Olivia had joined them in the lab. So what do we do, Captain? We can't outfight them. John looked at the approaching dots on the scanner. We have to find a way to stop them here, no matter the cost. As if to emphasize his words, the ship's alarms began to sound. Sam's voice came over the comm system, tense and urgent. Captain, the first harvester scout ships have arrived. They're taking up positions around the asteroid. The time for planning was over. The fight for survival had begun. The Northern Star shook as another blast hit its shields. Sam gripped the controls tightly, his face covered in sweat as he maneuvered the mining ship between the asteroids. The three harvester scout ships followed, firing strange purple energy beams. Shields down to 30%. Eric called from his station. He had rigged the ship's mining shields to absorb more damage, but they weren't designed for battle. In the cargo bay, Olivia and two of the awakened Iridians worked frantically. They had attached mining lasers to metal platforms, creating makeshift weapons. The tallest Iridian, named Krell, connected alien technology to the human devices, making them more powerful. Ready to try our little surprise, Olivia said into her comm. We need a clear shot, Sam. Working on it, the pilot replied through gritted teeth. On the bridge, John watched the tactical display. The scout ships were herding them toward the larger asteroid, where the Iridian base was hidden. He guessed they wanted to capture both the ship and the base intact. Sam, take us into that narrow passage between the two large asteroids, he ordered. Olivia, be ready. The ship dove between two massive rocks, barely fitting through the gap. The harvester ships followed, just as John had hoped. Now, he shouted. In the cargo bay, Olivia fired the modified mining laser. The beam, enhanced by Iridian technology, cut through space and sliced into the lead harvester ship. The alien vessel exploded in a burst of purple light. It worked, Eric shouted. The other two scout ships pulled back, seeming surprised by the unexpected resistance. Vex stood on the bridge beside Lisa, watching the tactical display. Not expect fight, the alien said. They think easy prey. Well, they fought wrong, John replied. But we just made them angry. The real battle is coming when their main fleet arrives. Lisa had been studying the Iridian data with the help of Vex and the others. Captain, the Iridians have told me about something that might help us. Deep in their base is a device they call the gravity well. What does it do? John asked. It can manipulate gravity, create a very powerful, very localized gravity field. She hesitated, almost like a temporary black hole. John's eyes widened. That could destroy everything in the area. Yes, Vex said. Last defense. Very dangerous. Might destroy all. The ship shook again as the remaining scout ships resumed their attack. One of the panels on the bridge exploded in a shower of sparks. We don't have a lot of options, Lisa said. The main harvester fleet will be here soon. We can't fight them all. John made his decision. Sam, get us back to the asteroid base. Lisa, you and Vex go with Eric to find this gravity well device. Learn how it works and if we can control where it affects. What's the plan, Captain? Olivia asked as she returned to the bridge. We're going to set a trap, John replied. Lure the harvester fleet to the asteroid and then trigger the device. If we can create a gravity well just right, it might take out their ships without destroying us. Might? Sam asked. Best chance, Vex said. Only chance. The Northern Star raced back toward the asteroid base, the two scout ships still in pursuit. As they approached, Sam skillfully used the mining thrusters to spray asteroid dust behind them, temporarily blinding their pursuers. The ship landed roughly near the entrance to the Iridian base. Through the view screen, they could see more lights had activated across the asteroid's surface. Time until the main fleet arrives? John asked. Less than 2 hours, Sam replied. John looked at his crew and their new alien allies. That's how long we have to set up our trap and figure out an escape route. Let's move. As they prepared to leave the ship, Olivia handed out the few weapons they had. According to Vex, these harvesters will be coming for our mines. Don't get captured alive. The grim warning hung in the air as they stepped back onto the asteroid, now fully awakened from its long sleep, and possibly soon to become their battlefield, or their grave. Deep inside the asteroid, Eric stood in awe before the gravity well device. It was a large, circular platform with a crystal column rising from its center. Strange blue energy pulsed through transparent tubes connecting the column to the floor. It's beautiful, he whispered. Vex and 2 other Iridians worked at control panels around the device. Their long, blue fingers moved quickly over the surfaces. Not used for many years, Vex explained. Must check safe. Lisa scanned the device with her equipment. The energy readings are off the charts. If this works the way they say, it could create a gravitational field strong enough to crush the harvester ships. And us along with them if we're not careful, Eric added. Through their comms, they heard John's voice. Status report. The device seems operational, Lisa replied. But Vex says it will take time to power up fully. Maybe an hour. We don't have an hour, John said grimly. The main harvester fleet has accelerated. They'll be here in 40 minutes. Get that device ready as fast as you can." In another section of the base, John and Olivia worked with Sam and the other Iridians to set up defenses. They had placed mining explosives at key points around the entrance and rigged more of the laser drills as weapons. "Even with these defenses, we can't hold off their entire fleet," Olivia said. "We don't need to," John replied. "We just need to keep them busy until the gravity well is ready." Sam looked up from his tablet. "I've been studying the Iridian data on the device. If I'm understanding this correctly, once it's activated, we'll have a very narrow window to escape before the gravity field expands to cover this entire region." "How narrow?" Olivia asked. "Maybe 2 minutes, and we'll need to be moving at full speed in exactly the right direction to break free of the pull." John nodded. "Then that's what we'll do. Sam, calculate the exact escape vector. We'll need perfect timing." The ground beneath them shook suddenly. One of the Iridians checked a nearby console and made urgent sounds. "What's happening?" John asked. "Harvesters here." Vex's voice came through the comm. "Not wait for fleet. Scouts land on asteroid. They come." John turned to Olivia. "Get those defenses online now. Sam, get back to the ship and start the engines. Be ready to move the moment we give the signal." As Sam ran toward where they had docked the Northern Star, John contacted Lisa and Eric. "The harvesters have landed. We're about to have company. How close are you to ready?" "We need at least 20 more minutes," Lisa replied, tension clear in her voice. "You have 10, John said. "Do what you can." The first explosion rocked the base as the harvesters breached the outer defenses. John and Olivia took cover behind a barricade they had built, weapons ready. The first harvester appeared in the corridor ahead of them. It was tall, almost skeletal, with gray skin stretched tight over a narrow frame. Its face had no mouth, only large black eyes that seemed to absorb light. In its hand was a weapon that pulsed with the same purple energy they had seen from the ships. Olivia fired her modified mining laser. The beam struck the harvester, but it only staggered back before continuing forward. "Aim for the head," shouted one of the Iridians in newly learned English. John adjusted his aim and fired again. This time the harvester fell and didn't get up. More appeared behind it. 3, then 5, then a dozen. "There are too many," Olivia shouted as she fired continuously. John hit his comm. "Lisa, Eric, we're getting overrun. Whatever you're going to do with that device, do it now." In the gravity well chamber, Eric worked frantically alongside Vex. The crystal column was now glowing brightly, the energy in the tubes pulsing faster. "It's not fully powered yet," Lisa said. "If we activate it now, we can't control how quickly the gravity field expands." "Choice gone," Vex said grimly. "Must act now or all die." Eric looked at the device, then at his friends. He made a decision. "I can modify the control system to give us a short delay before full activation," he said. "Just enough time for all of you to reach the ship." "All of us?" Lisa asked. "What about you?" Eric avoided her eyes. "Someone has to stay to make the final adjustments. To make sure it works." The sound of fighting grew louder outside the chamber. The harvesters were getting closer. "No time, argue," Vex said. "Start now." Alarms blared throughout the asteroid base. The walls shook as more harvester ships landed on the surface. John and Olivia fought a desperate retreat toward the gravity well chamber, firing continuously at the approaching enemies. "How much longer?" John shouted into his comm. "Almost ready," Eric replied, his voice strained. "The device is at 80% power. Good enough to create the gravity field, but I need to modify the timing mechanism." Lisa appeared at the end of the corridor, waving urgently. "This way." We found another path to the ship. John and Olivia backed up, still firing at the harvesters. They followed Lisa through a narrow passage that wound deeper into the asteroid before curving back toward the surface. "Where's Eric?" John asked as they ran. Lisa's face was grim. He stayed behind. Said someone needs to trigger the device manually to make sure it works. We can't leave him. Olivia protested. He gave me this to show you, Lisa said, holding up a tablet. On the screen was a simulation showing the gravity field expanding. Once it starts, nothing within 1,000 kilometers will survive. But if we follow the exact escape vector Sam calculated, we might make it out. John wanted to go back, to save everyone, but he knew that wasn't possible. Sometimes being a captain meant making impossible choices. How long do we have? He asked. 5 minutes after we reached the ship. That's all Eric could give us. They reached an airlock near where the Northern Star was docked. Through the viewport, they could see the ship's engines already glowing, ready for immediate departure. Vex and the other Iridians were waiting there. Others not make it, Vex said sadly. Many harvesters came. John did a quick count. Of the 7 Iridians they had awakened, only 4 remained. Combined with his crew, minus Eric, that made 8 survivors total. Let's move, he ordered. Every second counts now. They crossed the short distance to the ship in their spacesuits, moving as fast as the magnetic boots would allow. Behind them, the asteroid's surface was now crawling with harvesters. More ships were arriving, including a massive vessel that dwarfed all the others, the Harvester Mothership. Once inside the Northern Star, Sam wasted no time. The moment the airlock sealed, he fired the engines. The ship lifted off, immediately taking fire from harvester weapons. Stay on the escape vector, John shouted as he strapped into his seat. No matter what happens, don't deviate. Through the view screen, they could see the Harvester Mothership positioning itself directly above the asteroid. It seemed to be firing some kind of beam into the surface, perhaps trying to extract the Iridian technology. 1 minute until Eric activates the device, Lisa said, watching the countdown on her tablet. The ship rocked violently as it took more hits. Warning lights flashed across the control panels. Shields critical, Olivia reported. 1 more direct hit and we're done. Sam pushed the engines beyond their design limits, his hands moving with incredible speed across the controls. The ship lurched forward, accelerating away from the asteroid. 30 seconds, Lisa announced. The harvester ships gave chase, firing continuously. 1 blast grazed the ship's rear section, causing a small breach. Emergency systems sealed it off, but the ship was barely holding together. 10 seconds, Lisa said, her voice barely a whisper. On her tablet, they could see a small dot representing Eric's life sign, still active in the gravity well chamber. He was still there, still fighting to give them this chance. 0. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then a brilliant blue light erupted from the center of the asteroid. It expanded rapidly, enveloping first the surface, then the nearby space. The harvester ships closest to the asteroid were instantly crushed, compressed into tiny points of light before disappearing completely. The mothership tried to retreat, but was caught in the rapidly expanding gravity field. Hold on, Sam yelled as the edge of the field reached toward them. The Northern Star shuddered violently. Metal screamed as gravitational forces pulled at the ship from behind. The stars ahead of them appeared to bend and stretch as space itself warped around them. With one final surge from the engines, they broke free of the pull. Behind them, the gravity field collapsed in on itself, taking the entire harvester fleet with it. The silence that followed was profound. No one spoke as Sam steered the badly damaged ship into open space. Finally, John looked around at the survivors, his crew, and the Iridians they had saved. Set course for Earth, he said quietly. We need to warn them. The harvesters might be gone for now, but there will be others. Earth needs to be ready.